The day everything changed, I stood in my grandfather's study wearing the suit I'd had tailored specifically for this moment. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Industries headquarters, Manhattan's skyline stretched endlessly, a view I'd grown up admiring. The same view my grandfather had used to inspire me with stories of building his empire. "One day, Olivia," he'd say, "all of this will need someone strong enough to carry it forward." Now, 2 months after his passing, the entire Sterling family had gathered to hear the announcement of his successor. I adjusted my cufflinks, the ones he'd given me on my graduation from NIT, and tried to quiet the pounding in my chest. At 32, I'd spent the last decade preparing for this moment. While my cousin Maxwell attended society parties and collected headlines for his escapades, I had worked my way up through every department of Sterling Industries. Research and development, operations, finance. I learned it all from the ground up, just as my grandfather had. The heavy mahogany doors opened, and my Uncle Edward, the interim CEO, strode in. Behind him came the board members, then my parents, my Aunt Catherine, and finally Maxwell himself, looking immaculate in his designer suit, despite having just returned from his 3rd vacation this month. "Thank you all for coming," Uncle Edward began, his voice carrying the weight of authority he'd wielded since my father gave up his position to pursue politics. "As you know, we're here to announce Sterling Industries' new chief executive officer, as specified in Father's will." I caught my mother's eye. She quickly looked away, and my stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Sterling Industries represents not just a company, but a legacy, Uncle Edward continued. "We need leadership that understands both tradition and innovation. Someone who can maintain our relationships with the right people, who knows how to navigate our circles." My father shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Catherine smiled. "Therefore, it is my pleasure to announce that the new CEO of Sterling Industries will be Maxwell Sterling." The room erupted in applause. I stood frozen, my mind refusing to process the words. Maxwell stepped forward, his practiced smile gleaming. "I'm honored to accept this responsibility," he said smoothly. "Sterling Industries has always been about family, about upholding traditions while embracing the future." Family, traditions. The words rang hollow in my ears. I thought about the nights I'd spent reviewing contracts, the weekends lost to project proposals, the relationships sacrificed for this company, all while Maxwell had been building relationships at cocktail parties and charity galas. "Olivia." My mother touched my arm gently. "Don't make a scene." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the guilt in her eyes. "You knew," I said quietly. "You all knew before this meeting. It's what's best for the company," she whispered. "Maxwell has the right connections. The board feels." "The board?" I cut her off. "Or Uncle Edward?" "Olivia." My father's stern voice joined in. "This isn't the time." I turned to face the room. Maxwell was still speaking, something about honoring my grandfather's vision. The same grandfather who had taught me everything about this business, who had believed in merit over birthright. Grandfather would be ashamed, I said, my voice carrying across the room. The chatter died. Maxwell's smile faltered. "Olivia," Uncle Edward warned. "Remember your place." "My place?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "I've given everything to this company. I know every department, every major client, every project in development. Maxwell doesn't even know how our main product line works." "That's enough." Uncle Edward's face reddened. Your grandfather understood that running this company requires more than just technical knowledge. It requires the right personality, the right background, the right gender. I finished for him. The silence that followed was deafening. You're being emotional, Aunt Catherine said dismissively. Maxwell has been groomed for this position. He understands the social aspects, the networking required. You mean he's good at spending money at charity events? I removed my grandfather's cufflinks slowly, deliberately. Well, don't worry. I won't embarrass you with any more displays of emotion. I placed the cufflinks on my grandfather's desk, next to the photo of him teaching me about circuit boards when I was 12. Maxwell had been at a boarding school in Switzerland then. Olivia, don't be dramatic, my father started, but I was already walking to the door. Miss Sterling, one of the board members called out. Your position as head of operations is still secure. The board values your technical contributions. I paused at the doorway, turning to face them one last time. Keep it. I resign. Don't be foolish, Uncle Edward snapped. Where will you go? What will you do? I smiled, thinking of the project I'd been developing in secret, the patents I'd filed under my own name, the network I'd built while they thought I was just managing operations. Watch me, I said simply, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Maxwell resume his speech, heard the polite applause resume. They probably thought I would cool down, come crawling back once I realized I couldn't survive without the Sterling name. They had no idea what I was capable of, but they would learn. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone and made a call I'd prepared months ago, hoping I wouldn't need it. David? It's Olivia Sterling. Remember that offer to fund my startup? I'm in. But we do this my way. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and I walked out of Sterling Industries for the last time. Behind me lay a decade of dedication and betrayal. Ahead lay uncertainty and possibility. I had no way of knowing then that in 10 years, I would own not just a competing company, but an empire that would bring Sterling Industries to its knees. That the family that had dismissed me would come begging for help. But that's getting ahead of the story. First, I had to build something of my own, and I knew exactly where to start. 10 years is a long time to plan revenge. But I wasn't just planning revenge. I was building something bigger than Sterling Industries could ever imagine. The first year was the hardest. I rented a small office in Brooklyn, far from Manhattan's gleaming towers. My team consisted of just 5 people, all brilliant engineers and developers who had been overlooked or undervalued at major corporations. Like me, they had something to prove. I sold my penthouse, liquidated my trust fund before my family could freeze it, and poured everything into Nova Technologies. The name was deliberate. In astronomy, a nova is a star that suddenly becomes explosively bright, outshining everything around it. Are you sure about this? David asked one night, looking over our dwindling finances. As my primary investor and closest friend outside the Sterling circle, he was the only one who knew my full plan. Your family's already spreading rumors about your emotional breakdown in the industry. I was hunched over my desk, reviewing our latest prototype designs. Let them talk. They think I'm developing consumer electronics, trying to compete with their household appliance division. They have no idea what we're really working on. What Sterling Industries never understood was that while they were focused on maintaining their existing market share in home appliances and basic electronics, I had seen the future. Clean energy storage systems that could revolutionize power grids. Quantum computing applications that would transform data processing. For 3 years, we worked in near secrecy. I lived in a tiny apartment, poured every penny into research and development. My family's Christmas cards arrived each year, filled with updates about Maxwell's visionary leadership and Sterling Industries' continued market dominance. I filed them away without response. Then came our breakthrough. It works. Anna, our head engineer, burst into my office one morning, her eyes wild with excitement. The quantum storage system, it actually works. I followed her to the lab where our prototype hummed quietly, doing what Sterling Industries' research division had deemed impossible. We had created a quantum-based energy storage system that could revolutionize how cities managed their power grids. Within weeks, we filed the patents. A month later, major tech publications started noticing Nova Technologies. Investors began calling. But I was selective. I knew what money came with strings attached. The real turning point came when Morgan Stanley's head of technology investment contacted us. The meeting was set for their Manhattan office, 3 blocks from Sterling Industries. As my car approached the Morgan Stanley building, I saw a familiar figure entering Sterling Industries headquarters. Maxwell, surrounded by his usual entourage. He looked exactly the same, perfectly styled, perfectly confident, perfectly clueless about the storm that was coming. Nova Technologies isn't just offering a product, I told the Morgan Stanley executives an hour later. We're offering the future of urban power infrastructure, and we're the only ones who know how to build it. By the end of the meeting, we had secured $300 million in funding. But more importantly, we had gained powerful allies who saw Sterling Industries as outdated and ripe for disruption. The next few years passed in a blur of expansion, acquisitions, and strategic moves that my family never saw coming. Nova Technologies grew exponentially, but I kept my name out of the press, operating through subsidiaries and partners. Let Sterling Industries think I had disappeared. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Sterling Industries just lost the Chicago contract, David announced, striding into my office one morning. Their entire urban development division is in chaos. I smiled, remembering how I'd spent years building relationships with Chicago city planners, knowing they would eventually need to upgrade their power grid. The contract was worth billions, and Sterling Industries had counted on it to fund their expansion plans. That's not all, David continued, a slight smirk playing on his lips. They're hemorrhaging money trying to develop competing technology. Maxwell's been making promises to shareholders that their R&D can't deliver. I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline from my new office, higher than Sterling Industries, with a better view. Had they figured out who owns Nova yet? No, the corporate structure is too complex. They know Nova is behind their troubles, but they haven't connected it to you. I picked up my phone, scrolling through recent messages. One from my mother, the first in years. Darling, I hope you're well. Perhaps it's time to come home? The family misses you. Translation: they were getting desperate. Another from Maxwell himself. Cousin, I know we've had our differences, but I'd value your technical expertise right now. Sterling Industries could use your skills. I deleted both without responding. What's our next move? David asked. I pulled up the latest market analysis on my screen. Sterling Industries stock had dropped 40% in 6 months. Their board was in panic mode. And I had just acquired a controlling interest in their largest remaining client through a shell company. Now, I said, we let them come to us. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, my assistant interrupted my morning meeting. Ms. Noga, she said, using my professional name, Edward Sterling is in the lobby. He's demanding to meet with our CEO. I smiled, thinking of all the times Uncle Edward had dismissed my technical contributions. Make him wait an hour, then send him up. It was time for the Sterling family to learn exactly who they had underestimated. Uncle Edward looked older than I remembered. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by tense shoulders and worried eyes as he was finally shown into my office. He didn't recognize me at first. 10 years had changed more than just my position in life. "Thank you for meeting with me," he began, his rehearsed speech dying on his lips as recognition slowly dawned. "Olivia?" "Hello, Uncle Edward," I said calmly, enjoying the shock that spread across his face. "Or should I say, Mr. Sterling? This is a business meeting, after all." He sank into the chair across from my desk, his face ashen. You're behind Nova Technologies?" Surprised? I stood, walking to the window. From here, I could see Sterling Industries' headquarters, the building that should have been my legacy. "I suppose you would be. After all, I'm just the technical one, right? The one who doesn't understand the social aspects of business." "This is impossible," he muttered. "We've been trying to figure out who owns Nova for years. The corporate structure, the subsidiaries, are all designed to protect my identity." I finished for him. "I learned that from you, actually. All those lectures about keeping control through complex ownership structures. I paid attention, even if you never noticed." Edward's shock was transforming into anger. "You've been deliberately targeting us. The Chicago contract, the patent blocks, the client poaching. It was all you." "Not deliberately targeting," I corrected him. "Simply competing. Isn't that what you taught Maxwell about business?" "Oh wait, no. You taught him about cocktail parties and board meetings. I had to learn about actual business on my own." "We're family," he snapped. "What you're doing, it's destroying everything your grandfather built." "Family?" I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet office. "Was it family when you passed me over for Maxwell? When you dismissed a decade of my work because I didn't fit your image of a CEO?" I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall screen came to life, displaying Sterling Industries' financial data. "Your stock has dropped 60% this year. Your major clients are fleeing. Maxwell's visionary leadership has led to failed projects and missed opportunities. And now you're here, probably to propose a merger or acquisition." Edward's silence confirmed my guess. "Let me save you the pitch," I continued. "Nova Technologies isn't interested in merging with Sterling Industries. We are, however, prepared to make an offer to buy controlling interest at a significantly reduced price given your current market position." I slid a document across the desk. Edward's hands shook as he read the terms. This would mean Sterling Industries would become a subsidiary of Nova Technologies. I finished. Maxwell would step down as CEO. The board would be restructured, and the Sterling family would retain only minority ownership. "You can't do this," he whispered, but we both knew he was wrong. "I already am," I replied. "You have 24 hours to accept. After that, we'll proceed with our expansion plans without you. I believe your shareholders already know which way the wind is blowing." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Sterling Industries stock hits 5-year low amid takeover rumors. Edward stood up, his face red. "Your grandfather would be proud." I cut him off. "He built his empire from nothing. So did I. The only difference is I had to overcome my own family to do it." After he left, I sat in my office as evening fell over Manhattan. Within hours, the story would break. the mysterious owner of Nova Technologies revealed as the exiled Sterling Harris, the prodigal daughter who had outmaneuvered them all. My phone started buzzing with messages. Maxwell, we need to talk. Please. Mother. Darling, we had no idea. Can we meet? Aunt Catherine. You've made your point. Let's discuss this as family. I ignored them all. Instead, I called David. It's done, I said. Start the procedures for the takeover. How did Edward take it? About as well as you'd expect. I paused, looking at my grandfather's old cufflinks, which I'd kept all these years. Have security ready tomorrow. I expect more family visits. I was right. They came one by one over the next few days. My father, trying to appeal to family loyalty. My mother, tears and guilt. Maxwell, attempting to negotiate. But it was Aunt Catherine's visit that proved most interesting. You've grown ruthless, she said, studying me from across my desk. I learned from the best, I replied coolly. Yes, she smiled slightly. You did. That's why I voted for you 10 years ago. I blinked, surprised. You what? I was the only board member who voted for you as CEO, she revealed. I knew you had what it took. Edward and the others. They were afraid of change. Afraid of what you might do to their comfortable world. And look how right they were, I said. She laughed. Yes. Look how right they were. The takeover proceeded exactly as I had planned. Sterling Industries became a subsidiary of Nova Technologies. Maxwell resigned. The board was restructured, and I finally took my place in the office that should have been mine a decade ago. But I didn't stop there. Under my leadership, both companies flourished. Sterling Industries was modernized, its technology updated, its culture transformed. Nova Technologies continued to grow, expanding into new markets and technologies. The family? They adapted, eventually. They had no choice. Money and power were the only languages they truly understood, and now I spoke both fluently. On my first day in the Sterling Industries CEO office, I placed my grandfather's cufflinks on the desk where they belonged. The view was exactly as I remembered it, but now I saw it through different eyes. I wasn't just the technical one anymore. I wasn't just the overlooked daughter or the underestimated cousin. I was Olivia Sterling, CEO of Nova Technologies and Sterling Industries. The woman who had built an empire from scratch, who had beaten her family at their own game. And I was just getting started. David found me later that evening, still at my desk reviewing merger documents. Was it worth it? He asked. All those years of planning, working in secret? I looked out at the city lights, thinking of that day 10 years ago when I'd walked away from everything I thought I wanted. They thought they were pushing me down, I said finally. But they were actually pushing me forward. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what others have built. It's building something better, he finished. I smiled, thinking of all the possibilities ahead. Exactly.